the galaxy never stayed quiet for long. Within days, the entire star network buzzed with a single shocking message. The Valori princess called a human her father. News broadcast. Every data channel, every political network replayed that moment, the soft, trembling voice of Serenia calling Captain Elias Grant father. To humans, it was touching. To the Valori, it was unthinkable. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's most powerful empire had been defied not by armies, but by a single human's kindness. On board the UES Horizon, tension filled the air. The crew could feel that something big was coming. Every scan of the surrounding sectors showed movement, fleets shifting position, signals being sent and received in secret. Elias stood at the command deck watching the holographic map. Tiny red dots blinked across the star chart, each one a Valori warship moving closer. Lieutenant Mara broke the silence. "They're surrounding us, Captain. Long-range sensors show at least 20 ships. More are coming? Any messages?" Elias asked. "Just one, sir," Mara said. "A warning they want us to surrender the princess immediately or face destruction." Dr. Chen spoke up quietly. "If we hand her over, she'll be punished. Maybe worse." Elias nodded. "I know. That's not an option." Commander Reyes frowned. "Captain, with respect, this is bigger than us. The Valori could crush the entire Earth fleet in one battle. Protecting her might cost us everything." Elias looked at his crew. His face was calm but firm. "If humanity's first lesson to the galaxy is that we trade a child's life for safety, then we don't deserve the stars." The room fell silent. No one could argue with that. Meanwhile, Serenia sat quietly in the med bay, listening to the faint hum of the ship. She had seen the news transmissions, the way her own people spoke of her as a traitor. Her heart ached. When Elias entered, she stood up quickly. "They know," she said softly. "The whole galaxy knows what I said." "Yes," Elias admitted. "And now everyone's watching us." Her violet eyes shimmered with worry. "They will come for me." "For you too, let them," Elias said with a faint smile. "We'll handle it." She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "You don't understand their power. The Valori fleets are endless. Their ships can crush worlds. Why are you not afraid?" Elias looked out through the window where the stars glittered cold and distant. "Because fear doesn't protect people. Courage does." For a long moment, Serenia said nothing. Then she whispered, "I wish the Valori could think like humans." Back on Earth, panic spread among the leaders of the United Earth government. The image of Serenia calling Elias father had reached every major civilization. Ambassadors were flooded with messages from alien powers demanding explanations. Meeting was held in the great orbital capital above Earth. Generals, admirals, and council members argued endlessly. One group demanded that Serenia be handed over to avoid war. Another argued that humanity had found something far more valuable, a chance to stand as equals among the stars. Admiral Rhodes, an old friend of Elias, stood before the council and spoke clearly. "If we betray the child, we show the galaxy that humans can be bullied. But if we protect her, we show them something they've never seen. Mercy, backed by courage." The council voted, and though the decision was close, humanity chose to stand with the captain days later. The horizon drifted near the edge of human space. A huge energy signature appeared on their sensors. Mara's voice cracked with shock. "Captain, they've arrived." Elias looked up. Through the viewport, the stars vanished behind a sea of silver, the Valori Grand Fleet. Stretching farther than the human eye could see, thousands of ships, glowing with golden light, filled the darkness. The crew stood frozen. Even the bravest among them felt small before such power. Elias walked slowly to the front window. Open communications. The main screen flickered, revealing the image of the Valori Empress herself. Tall, elegant, with eyes like molten gold. Her presence radiated authority. "I am Empress Lyra of Valari," she said coldly. "You hold my daughter. You have defied an empire that has ruled for 10,000 years. Return her, and I may spare your world." Elias bowed his head slightly, respectful but unyielding. Your Majesty, your daughter was dying when we found her. We saved her life. We mean no harm. The Empress's gaze hardened. You presume to speak of mercy to me, human. She was lost because she disobeyed me. You will return her now. Before Elias could respond, a small voice spoke from behind him. Mother. The Empress's eyes widened slightly as Serenia stepped forward. Standing beside Elias, she looked so small, yet her voice was steady. Mother, I am safe. These humans protected me when our own people left me to die. The Empress's expression darkened. You shame your bloodline by standing beside them, Serenia said firmly. You shame it by calling kindness weakness. Gasps spread across the bridge. Even the human crew was stunned by her courage. The Empress's voice rose, sharp as lightning. You would defy your empire for these fragile creatures? Serenia turned to Elias and took his hand. They are not fragile. They are strong in ways you cannot see. Elias looked at her, pride and sadness mixing in his eyes. He knew this moment would echo forever. The Empress stared at the joined hands, human and Valari, and for a moment, her mask of control cracked. You call him father, don't you? Serenia nodded. He earned that name. The Empress's eyes burned with fury. You insult your lineage. Elias stepped forward calmly. With respect, Your Majesty. Family isn't about blood. It's about who stands beside you when no one else will. His words hung in the air. Even across the stars, the message carried weight. The Valari fleet held its position, waiting for orders to fire, but none came. The Empress said nothing for several seconds. Then she whispered, You do not understand the danger you invite, human. Maybe not, Elias said quietly. But I do know right from wrong. The screen went dark. Moments later, the sensors screamed. The Valari fleet was charging weapons. Captain, Mara shouted. They're targeting us. Elias didn't move. Raise shields. Power to engines. The ship shook violently as energy waves passed by, but none hit directly. The Valari ships fired warning shots, not direct strikes. Elias realized the Empress was hesitating. She's testing us, he muttered. She wants to see if we'll break. Reyes gritted his teeth. And if we don't, then she'll respect us, Elias said firmly. Or destroy us trying. The crew stood ready at their stations. Even in the face of impossible odds, they didn't run. Humanity's finest stood tall among the stars. After what felt like hours, the firing stopped. The Valari fleet began to withdraw, one ship at a time, until only the flagship remained. Then a final message arrived. You have until sunrise of the next cycle to decide. Return the princess, or Earth will burn. And then they were gone. When the silence finally returned, Serenia sank into her seat, tears forming in her eyes. They'll destroy you all because of me. Elise knelt beside her. No, Serenia. They'll destroy themselves if they try. Because when humans fight for what's right, they don't lose. She looked at him through her tears. Why do you believe so much in people who are small compared to the stars? He smiled gently. Because we're small, yes, but we care. And that's something most empires have forgotten. Serenia reached out and held his hand tightly. Then I will not let you stand alone. Across the galaxy, other species watched the standoff unfold. The Rin Coalition, the Orvok Dominion, and dozens of smaller races whispered among themselves. For centuries, they had feared the Valari. But now, one human captain and one alien princess were showing the universe something new. That even the smallest voice could challenge the mightiest throne, and somewhere deep inside, the heart of the Valari Empress, something began to change. The UES horizon drifted quietly at the edge of human-controlled space. Outside, the stars glittered like scattered diamonds, but the crew felt none of their usual awe. The Valari Empire's warning echoed in their minds, return the princess, or face annihilation. Captain Elias Grant stood on the command deck staring at the flickering screens. Reports streamed in from sensors, news networks, and distant satellites. Every major alien empire had watched the confrontation. Every world knew what had happened. The galaxy was holding its breath. Captain, said Lieutenant Mara, her voice tight. We've received multiple fleets approaching from the Valerie home quadrant. Their combined forces. It's massive. Elias nodded. No. And yet, we cannot surrender Serenia. She trusted us. She's a child, and she's not just any child. She's a symbol of what the galaxy could be. Dr. Chen joined them quietly. Sir, their fleets outnumber us by hundreds. Even if we had reinforcements from Earth, we couldn't win a direct fight. Elias's gaze softened. We don't need to win by force. We win by standing firm, by showing that humanity protects what is right, no matter the risk. Meanwhile, Serenia sat quietly in her quarters. Her small hands traced patterns on the table as she thought about the fleets approaching. She had never seen courage like Elias's. In the Valar Empire, loyalty meant obeying fear, but humans, she realized, fought for ideals instead. She whispered softly, almost to herself, if only my people could see what humans truly are. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Elias entered, sitting across from her. You're thinking about them, he said gently. They will destroy you for me, she replied. Even the stars themselves cannot protect you from their wrath. He smiled faintly. Perhaps, but I'd rather face their wrath than live with the guilt of abandoning someone who needed me. She looked up at him, eyes shining with admiration. Then I will stand with you, Father. I will not let you face this alone. Elias reached out and held her hand. And I will not let you face it alone. In the human council chambers above Earth, urgent meetings were underway. Reports from the horizon reached the leaders of humanity, and debates ran late into the night. Some argued for surrender, citing the overwhelming power of the Valerie fleets. Others argued that surrender would dishonor humanity and make them weak in the eyes of the galaxy. Admiral Rhodes stood before the assembly, his voice calm but firm. We have a choice. Fear has ruled our species for centuries. But today, a child has reminded us what courage looks like. Captain Elias is not only protecting her life, he is showing the galaxy what humanity can achieve when it stands for justice and kindness. The council was silent, struck by the truth in his words. Finally, the vote was made. Humanity would stand with the horizon. They would protect Serenia no matter the cost. Back on the horizon, preparations began. Shields were reinforced, engines calibrated for maximum speed, and weapon systems brought to full readiness. The crew moved with efficiency, knowing that every second could mean the difference between survival and destruction. Elias walked through the corridors, checking on his crew. Remember, he told them, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for what is right. Every human out there will know that courage matters more than numbers. Mara nodded. Sir, the Valari are broadcasting messages to every planet. They're calling us traitors. Let them, Elias said. Traitors to tyranny, maybe? But loyal to the innocent? Hours later, sensors detected the Valari Grand Fleet approaching the horizon's position. Thousands of ships filled the blackness, their golden hulls glinting ominously. The ship's shields hummed as energy fields activated across every surface. Captain, said Reyes, they're hailing us again. Orders or threats? Their communications are everywhere. Elias nodded. Put it through. The main screen lit up with the image of Empress Lyra herself. Her golden eyes glowed as she spoke, her voice carrying through every channel. You humans have defied my will. You have kept my daughter from me. Surrender the princess now, or the galaxy will see your world destroyed. Elias stepped forward. Your Majesty, we cannot surrender a child who trusted us. She is safe because we acted with courage and kindness, something your fleets cannot teach. The Empress's expression hardened. You presume to lecture me, human? You will face consequences you cannot imagine. Before Elias could respond, Serenia stepped forward from behind him. Mother, she said firmly, her voice steady. He saved me when no one else would. He protected me even when it was dangerous. I call him Father because he is more than a protector. He is the one who taught me trust and hope. The galaxy fell silent. Even the Valerie fleet, poised for attack, hesitated. Nothing in their history had prepared them for a child to openly defy the Empress and call a human her father. Elias looked at the Empress calmly. Your fleets are powerful, but power without compassion is meaningless. If you strike, you will show the galaxy fear. If you retreat, you will see what courage can accomplish. A tense silence followed. Then the Empress said nothing. The crew of the Horizon waited, knowing that the slightest mistake could mean death. But instead of opening fire, the Valar ships slowly formed a perimeter. Holding position but not attacking, Mara exhaled. They're waiting. Yes, Elias said quietly. They're learning. Serenia took his hand. Father, they understand now, don't they? Elias nodded. They understand that humans fight for what is right. That is strength they have never seen before. Across the galaxy, other empires watched with awe. The Rin Coalition, the Orvac Dominion, and smaller worlds had expected humanity to falter. Instead, they saw a small ship standing firm against a vast fleet, and a child teaching the most feared empress of the Valar Empire a lesson in morality. Courage and honor, reports began streaming back. Humanity has not only survived, it has inspired. On the horizon, the crew prepared for the next phase. They could feel the tension easing slightly, but they knew this was only the beginning. They had sent a message across the galaxy: humanity will not yield to threats. Humanity will protect what is right, no matter the odds. And at that moment, in a quiet room aboard the ship, Serenia whispered, I will help them see. The galaxy can be better. Elias smiled, feeling a sense of pride he had never known. Then together, we will. As the stars shimmered outside the viewport, the horizon drifted silently, the human crew ready for whatever came next. The Valkyrie fleet remained in the distance, powerful yet restrained. For the first time, someone had shown them that compassion could outweigh fear. And somewhere in the heart of the galaxy, the story of a human captain and an alien princess began to spread, a story that would change history, teaching empires that true power lies not in destruction, but in courage, kindness, and standing up for what is right. The day had not ended in battle, yet the message was clear. Humanity had made its stand. The UES Horizon floated in the calm blackness of space, its shields humming softly as the Valar fleet held position in the distance. After days of tense standoff, the galaxy seemed to pause, watching every move. Elias Grant stood on the command deck, arms crossed, his eyes focused on the stars. Beside him, Serenia, small, glowing, and confident, held his hand. She had grown in courage and understanding in just a few days, but her violet eyes still carried the wisdom of someone older than her years, the Valar Empress. Lyra remained silent across the communication channels. Her fleet had stopped advancing, yet her presence loomed over every decision. Every thought aboard the horizon, Elias turned to his crew. Today, we do not fight because we want war. We fight because we must protect what is right. Are you ready? The crew nodded in unison. Though outnumbered, they stood tall. Humans had always been small in the galaxy. Courage had never depended on numbers. Serenia approached her father quietly. They will test you again, she said softly. Perhaps in ways worse than before. Elias smiled gently. They will. But they will also see what humanity truly is. And you, Serenia, will help them understand. She nodded, determination lighting her face. I will speak, Father. I will tell them what you have shown me, courage, honor, and kindness. And so she did. A broadcast was arranged. Every Valari ship, every allied system, every listening world across the galaxy tuned in. Serenia stepped forward, her glowing markings shimmering softly as she addressed billions. My people, she began, her voice steady and clear. I have seen courage beyond our legends. A human has protected me, not because it was easy, not because it benefited him, but because it was right. I call him Father, for he has shown me what loyalty, trust, and honor mean. Those who follow him will see the true meaning of strength. Across the galaxy, millions of eyes widened. Even the Valari soldiers and nobles paused, stunned. Their young princess had spoken against centuries of expectation. and yet no one could deny the truth in her words. Elias stepped forward beside her. "I am not your enemy, Valerie," he said calmly. "We did not come to take or to conquer. We came to protect a child, because that is what humans do. And we will continue to do so, not with fear, not with aggression, but with courage and compassion. Any empire that cannot see this will not be strong, but weak in the ways that truly matter." The Empress remained silent. Her eyes glowed, sharp and piercing, but even she could feel the truth in Ilias's words. No amount of fleet strength could replicate the power of honor and righteousness. For the first time, the Valari people saw something they had never recognized in humans. A strength that was invisible, yet unyielding. Days passed. Slowly, fleets began to withdraw. The Valari ships retreated, forming a perimeter around their home systems, as if unwilling to admit what had happened. Yet they could not attack the humans. Serenia had spoken truth across the stars, and truth had a weight no weapon could match. On board the Horizon, the crew breathed easier. The standoff had ended without a single human life lost. Serenia turned to Elias, tears in her eyes. "Father, you have done what no one else could. You protected me. You changed them." Elias smiled softly. "No, Serenia, you changed them too. You stood with me when it was frightening, when it was dangerous. That courage is what the galaxy will remember." She smiled faintly, her violet eyes glimmering. "Then together, we are stronger than any fleet." Weeks later, peace negotiations began. The Valar Empress had agreed to a meeting with humans, mediated by neutral alien worlds. For the first time in history, the Valari and humanity sat across the same table, not as enemies, but as equals in the presence of a child who had reminded everyone what courage and honor meant. Serenia's presence was central. She stood beside Elias, her hand resting on his shoulder as she spoke to the Empress. "Strength is not in fear, Mother. It is in courage. It is in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. That is true power, the power that Elias has shown me." The Empress's golden eyes softened slightly. For centuries, she had ruled through fear and obedience. Now she saw the galaxy differently. A galaxy where trust and honor could bind more strongly than any fleet or weapon. Slowly, she nodded. "Perhaps I have much to learn from your kind." And with that, the first steps toward peace began. Across the galaxy, the story of Elias and Serenia spread. Humans were no longer seen as a small, fragile species. They were recognized as beings of courage, wisdom, and honor, capable of standing against the most powerful empires and changing the hearts of kings and queens on Earth. Children studied the events in schools. Father of the Princess became a title of respect. Statues were erected in honor of humans who showed that courage and compassion could truly shape history. Elias never sought fame. He continued his missions, exploring the stars, helping colonies, and guiding those who needed protection. But wherever humans went, the story of the Horizon and the princess was remembered. Serenia, meanwhile, prepared to return home. She had grown immensely in understanding. As she stood beside her father before leaving the ship, she said softly, "When I rule, Father, I will honor what you have taught me. The galaxy will know that humans are not just small creatures, they are capable of greatness." Elias smiled, pride filling his heart. "And I will always stand with you, Princess, no matter where you go." Her glowing markings shimmered as she stepped into her transport, ready to take her place as heir of the Valari Empire. For the first time, she looked forward to the future, not with fear, but with hope. Months later, the Valar Empire began to change. Leaders who once ruled through fear now listened to voices of reason. Peace treaties were negotiated. New alliances were formed. And at every crucial moment, the story of a human captain and the princess who called him father reminded them of the strength in courage and compassion. Elias watched it all quietly. Humanity had not fought a war, yet the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. The humans of Earth were no longer the underdogs. They were a beacon of hope, courage, and moral strength. One evening, as Elias stood on the horizon's deck, Saranya sent a personal message across the stars. Her voice was calm, powerful, and filled with warmth. "The man I call Father showed me what true strength is. The galaxy will remember him and humanity for all time." Elias smiled softly, gazing at the distant stars. He did not seek glory. He did not seek power. All he had done was protect a child, a single act of kindness. Yet that single act had reshaped entire empires. Somewhere in the quiet expanse of space, a legend had been born, a human who stood for what was right, a princess who understood the true meaning of courage, and a galaxy that learned, finally, that strength is not measured by weapons, but by the heart. And thus, humanity's story continued, not as conquerors, but as protectors, as equals, and as a species capable of changing the galaxy. One act of courage at a time, the stars shimmered quietly, almost as if acknowledging the beginning of a new era. The era of humans, the era of hope.
The Galactic Cadet Academy stood high above the planet Zephyr, shining under the twin suns. It was the pride of the Galactic Union, a place where young cadets from hundreds of alien species trained to protect the galaxy. Their ships glimmered like silver arrows and their flags carried symbols of unity. Inside the academy, everything was in motion. Tall reptilian trainees in armor marched through the halls. Insectoid students clicked their mandibles while reading tactical displays, and glowing beings of light floated between rooms. But today, something new had arrived, and something strange. A human. No one had seen one before in person. Some thought they were myths. Others said humans were primitive, wild creatures from a forgotten blue planet called Earth. The moment the new cadet walked through the training hall doors, the entire room went silent. He was average in height, wearing a simple uniform that seemed too large for him. His brown hair was messy, and his calm eyes scanned the area like he was walking into a shopping mall, not a military academy. He had a small grin on his face, like nothing here scared him. His name was Evan Carter, and he had no idea that half the academy was already whispering about him. "Is that the human?" Someone hissed from behind a metal pillar. "He looks soft," another whispered.
"Do you think he eats meat?"
"Or stars forbid plants? He doesn't even have claws." Evan heard them, but he didn't care. He had learned long ago that curiosity often came before friendship. He simply scratched the back of his head and continued walking. His bag slung over one shoulder. In the strategy room, the instructor stood tall, a massive alien named Commander Thrakon, with 4 arms and a deep voice that could shake metal doors. His eyes narrowed when he saw the new face. "Cadet Carter of Earth," Thrakon said slowly, tasting the name like it was foreign. "You are late," Evan smiled politely. "Sorry, sir." The shuttle took the scenic route. A few alien cadets laughed quietly, but Thrakon didn't. "This is no place for jokes. You are now part of the 1st Cadet Squadron. You will follow orders, train, and fight as one unit." "Understood?" "Yes, sir," Evan said. The other cadets stood in a line, whispering. There was Sral, a reptilian with green scales and sharp yellow eyes. Tiri, a blue-skinned telepath who could sense emotions. Rook, a 4-legged mechanical cadet from the machine species. And Kelna, a tall avian with silver feathers. They were the top performers of the academy, proud of their ranks, until now. Having a human join their squad felt like a joke. Thrakon pressed a button on the holographic console, and a giant 3D image appeared in the center of the room, a massive creature with claws longer than swords and scales darker than night. "This," Thrakon said, pointing to it, "is the Thraxian Devourer. It lives on the jungle moon of Thrax 7. Your mission is to locate, study, and if possible, neutralize the creature." The room filled with murmurs. "Neutralize?" Tiri said softly. "That thing destroyed a transport ship last year." Rook's metallic voice buzzed. "Its armor reflects plasma fire. Our chances of survival are statistically low." Thrakon's deep laugh echoed. "Exactly why this mission is a test. If you can face fear and survive, you are worthy of becoming full galactic defenders." He paused, glancing at Evan. "And if the human wants to prove he belongs here, this is his chance," Sral hissed under his breath. "He'll slow us down." Evan smiled faintly. "I'll try not to." The next morning, the squad gathered at the academy hangar. A sleek silver shuttle stood ready, its engines humming. The cadets wore combat armor, except Evan, who wore a lighter version and carried a small survival pack. Kelna tilted her head. "You're not taking a plasma rifle?" Evan shrugged. "Nah, I like to travel light," Sral growled. "You'll be dead in 5 minutes." "Then I'll haunt you for the next 5, Evan said casually. Even Rook's mechanical face flickered with amusement. Human humor detected. Unexpected. As they boarded the ship, the pilot announced, "Coordinates set. Destination, Thrax 7. Estimated flight time, 2 hours." The journey through hyperspace was silent. The aliens checked their gear, adjusted scanners, and reviewed the creature's data. Evan just leaned back, listening to music through an old pair of earbuds. Tiri could sense his emotions, calm, steady, almost peaceful. She finally asked, "Aren't you afraid?" Evan opened one eye. "Of what?" "The beast. It's the deadliest creature known to the Union." He smiled softly. "We've got worse back home." "Ever seen a bear with a bad mood?" No one knew what a bear was, but his tone made them uneasy. When the shuttle entered Thrax 7's orbit, the view outside turned green and golden. The entire moon was covered with forests so thick that sunlight barely reached the ground. Mountains rose like teeth and rivers glowed faintly from alien minerals. They landed in a clearing surrounded by massive trees. The ground shook lightly with every rumble coming from far away. "Stay alert," Commander Thrakon's voice echoed through their comms. "You are now on your own. Retrieve data or terminate the target. Good luck." The team stepped out, scanning the area. Rook deployed a small drone that floated ahead, projecting a map of the terrain. Sral sniffed the air. The scent of blood. "It's been hunting recently." Tiri shivered. "I can feel its anger. Like thunder." Evan crouched, brushing his hand against the muddy soil. He noticed giant footprints, deep, circular, and wide enough to fit a hovercraft. "It's big," he said quietly, "but it's moving in patterns." Sral frowned. "Patterns?" "Yeah, see these prints? It's circling something, and maybe its nest." "How can you tell?" "Instinct, I guess." The aliens exchanged confused glances. Instinct wasn't part of their training. They relied on scanners, data, and analysis. But the humans seemed to read the land like a book. Hours passed. They moved through thick vines, misty air, and strange sounds. Shadows darted between trees, and sometimes they saw eyes watching them from the darkness. Suddenly, Rook stopped. Thermal reading. Large mass moving ahead. Distance 800 meters, everyone froze. Weapons hummed to life. Evan simply took a deep breath and adjusted his gloves. Sral whispered, "Remember the plan. Attack from both sides. Surround it and fire together." Evan nodded. "Got it. But maybe don't shoot unless we have to." "Why not?" He smiled faintly. "Because things that big usually have a reason for being angry." They crept closer, the ground trembling with each distant step of the beast. Leaves shook and trees cracked under its weight. The team's hearts pounded, and all except Evan's. His face stayed calm, thoughtful. Tiri whispered in his mind, "You are calm. Too calm." Evan didn't respond. He just looked up at the canopy as a low growl rolled across the forest like thunder. Then the sound stopped. The forest went completely silent. "Not a bird, not a breeze, like something's wrong," Kelna said softly. A shadow passed overhead, more massive, fast. The trees exploded as something huge landed in front of them, shaking the earth. Leaves and dirt filled the air. Through the dust, they saw glowing red eyes and a jaw filled with fangs. The Thraxian devourer had found them. Sral shouted, "Positions!" And the squad spread out, weapons ready. The creature roared, a sound so loud it made the ground vibrate. But Evan didn't move. He just stared at the beast, eyes narrowing. "Hey," he muttered quietly, half to himself. "You look hungrier than I am," Sral yelled. "Human!"
Fall back!
But Evan didn't. He stepped forward slowly, his mind already working. Something about the creature's movements caught his eye. The way it favored its right leg, the way it blinked faster before roaring. There was pain there, not pure rage, he whispered. "You're hurt, aren't you?" The aliens thought he was talking to himself. But the beast tilted its head slightly, like it had heard him. For the first time, the alien cadets felt fear, not of the beast, but of what the human was about to do. And that was the moment everything changed. The Thraxian devourer stood before them, its body like a mountain of scales and claws, Its glowing red eyes cut through the mist, and its deep growl made the ground tremble. The air smelled of smoke and wet soil. Every alien cadet could feel the vibration in their bones. The squad froze. No one dared move. The creature lowered its head slightly, watching them with an almost intelligent stare. Its chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. Evan stood still, hands loose at his sides, eyes sharp. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't shout orders. He simply looked. Sral hissed softly, his claws shaking. "What are you doing, human?" "It will kill us." Evan's calm voice came quietly. "Not yet. Look at its leg." The cadets looked closer through the fog and saw a deep burn mark on the creature's right leg, still glowing faintly. Rook scanned it with his sensors. Injury confirmed. Caused plasma fire, likely from a crashed ship. "The creature is in pain," Evan nodded. "That's why it's so angry." Kelna blinked her bright yellow eyes. "You mean it's not attacking out of hunger?" "Exactly," Evan said. "It's scared and hurt." Big difference. Before anyone could say more, the beast roared again. The force of it shook branches from the trees. Sral raised his plasma rifle and shouted, "We can't risk it." But before he fired, Evan grabbed the barrel and pushed it down. "Don't," he said firmly. "If we shoot, we'll make it worse." Sral's scales flared with anger. "You think you know better than me, human?" Evan smiled faintly. "No. I just think shooting an angry armored lizard might not be our best idea." The creature suddenly moved, crashing through trees and sending everyone flying backward. The cadets scattered, hiding behind roots and rocks. "Rook, give me a reading," shouted Tiri. "Tracking movement." "It's circling us." Rook's robotic voice echoed. Evan crouched low, listening. The jungle was filled with rustling leaves and heavy footsteps. He could tell the creature wasn't trying to crush them. It was trying to scare them away. He whispered to himself, "You just want to be left alone, don't you?" The squad regrouped behind a large boulder. Their breathing was heavy, armor scratched, and morale low. Sral looked furious. "This is your fault, human," he growled. "We had a plan. Surround, fire, retreat. Now it's hunting us." Evan didn't argue. He just stared at the trees, thinking. His mind worked like a quiet engine. He noticed broken branches in a curved path and piles of bones near a cave entrance up ahead. "That's its den," he said softly. "If we stay here, it'll just come back. We need to move before nightfall." Kelna looked uncertain. "Move toward its den?" Evan smiled. "Yeah. If you want to understand something dangerous, you go where it lives. You don't wait for it to find you." Tiri shook her head. "Humans are strange." Evan chuckled. "You have no idea." The squad began moving carefully through the jungle. The ground was wet, the air filled with glowing insects and alien vines that pulsed with blue light. Every sound made them flinch. Evan led the way, stepping quietly, eyes scanning for tracks. His movements were slow but confident, like someone who had spent years hiking through wild forests back on Earth. Sral muttered behind him, "He moves like prey, not a soldier." Evan smiled without turning. Prey that knows how to survive. They climbed over roots, crossed shallow streams, and finally reached the cave. The opening was enormous, big enough for a ship to fit inside. Steam drifted from within, and the sound of slow breathing echoed out. The creature was inside. Rook whispered, "Thermal reading confirms the target. Its energy is unstable but not aggressive." Evan looked back at the group. "Okay, everyone stay here. I'm going in alone." "What?" Tyree gasped. "That's madness." Sral grabbed his arm. "You can't." Evan shrugged. "Relax, I'm just going to look." Before they could stop him, he stepped into the darkness. Inside the cave, the air was thick and warm. The walls were covered in strange symbols, claw marks old and new. Evan realized they weren't random scratches. They looked like drawings. The creature had carved them into the stone. He walked slowly, careful not to make noise. The devourer lay near the back, curled slightly, its massive chest rising and falling. Up close it looked less like a monster and more like an ancient guardian. Scarred, old, tired. Evan crouched and whispered, "You're not what they say you are you?" The beast opened one glowing eye. It growled softly but didn't attack. Evan stayed still, heart steady. He slowly reached into his pack and pulled out a small device, a compact scanner. "Let's see what's hurting you," he said softly, scanning the leg wound. The display showed embedded metal fragments, pieces of a crashed drone. "So that's it," Evan murmured. "Shrapnel. Must hurt like crazy." He took out a small toolkit. Every alien cadet outside held their breath as they watched through Rook's drone feed. The human knelt beside the sleeping monster, working carefully. "What is he doing?" Kelna whispered. Rook replied, "He appears to be helping it." Soral couldn't believe it. Helping the target? Has he lost his mind? But inside the cave, Evan worked quietly, removing the metal shards one by one. The beast stirred but didn't attack. It seemed to understand. When the last piece came out, it exhaled deeply, almost a sigh. Evan smiled. "There you go, big guy. All fixed." The creature's eyes blinked slowly, then closed again. It didn't roar or strike. It simply lay still, breathing peacefully for the first time. Evan backed away and walked out of the cave, wiping sweat from his forehead. The cadets ran up to him full of confusion. Tiri spoke first. "You touched it?" Evan nodded. "Yep," Sral's tail flicked. "And it didn't eat you?" "Not really its style," Evan said with a grin. "Turns out it had some metal stuck in its leg. I removed it." The group stared at him like he was insane. Kelna asked softly, "You helped a creature that destroyed ships?" Evan shrugged. "Sometimes things attack because they're in pain. Fix the pain, fix the problem." Rook tilted his head, mechanical eyes blinking. "Human logic detected, compassion before conflict," Evan smiled. "Something like that." Before they could relax, the ground shook again. The cadets raised their weapons, but it wasn't an attack. The beast had emerged from the cave, standing tall, watching them. Its red eyes glowed, but there was no anger this time. It took one slow step forward, then lowered its head slightly, almost like a bow. The squad gasped. Even Soral was speechless. Evan smiled softly and whispered, "You're welcome." The beast gave a low rumble and turned, disappearing into the jungle. The trees moved aside as it walked away, leaving only silence behind. The squad stood frozen for a long moment. The mission that was supposed to be a dangerous hunt had turned into something none of them could have imagined. Finally, Soral spoke, his voice quiet. "I don't understand you, human." Evan laughed lightly. "Most people don't, but that's okay." They returned to the ship as the sun began to set, the sky glowing orange and purple. The jungle, which once felt terrifying, now seemed calm. Birds sang again. Tiri looked at Evan. "You didn't just fight the beast. You changed it." Evan looked up at the sky. "Maybe it changed me too." They boarded the shuttle, still in awe. For the first time, the alien cadets didn't see Evan as a weak outsider. They saw him as something else, unpredictable, brave, and deeply human. As the engines roared to life, Soral finally muttered, "Next time, remind me not to doubt Earth's species." Evan grinned. "I'll write it down for you." The ship lifted off, leaving behind the jungle moon, and one peaceful creature who now watched the stars above, free of pain.